about that too.
The weekly sports talk show on Channel 18. That is public access TV. And Joe, there we go. We're back on. Public access TV, Channel 18. My name is Dirk Keller. Bob Boyd is back from an assignment.
Good to be back, yes.
Pat White is back.
How are you, Dirk?
We appreciate good.
Happy Lincoln's birthday
I'm
and
back.
all of
Yeah,
it.
happy Lincoln's birthday. Earl Murphy's back last week. Was just way too cold and dangerous. So
Yes.
son John filled in admirably. And
Good.
He said he didn't get to talk very much. Some guy that's moderating the show was talking all the time, and he said,
Who would that have been?
I don't know.
I know he didn't say that.
Yeah.
Does anybody know how old Abe would be today?
205.
Yeah.
Happy Abraham Lincoln's
good.
birthday.
Well, you should have wore a stovepipe hat or something, you know?
Somebody else at school said that. I should have dressed
Yeah.
like Abe Lincoln.
Yeah, that's right.
You're about the same height as it.
Well, he was 6'4". Again, I'm 6'3", so I guess
Well,
that's
you're
close.
you're damn close.
I do have a kid.
That was a big man in those days.
Oh, it's huge. He was.
Yeah.
He was a freak of nature back
Well,
then.
he had Marfan's disease.
Yes, he did. Yep, the same disease that killed the U.S. volleyball Olympic player. Forget her name. Flo, something
Yeah.
or other, way back in the day. So I have a kid I grew up with in high school who is a famous Lincoln impersonator. And he makes appearances throughout the year dressed like Abe, and he's like 6'6".
No kidding.
He's got the beard and the stovepipe hat. And Conan O'Brien did a special feature years ago where he went to Springfield. I think it was Abe's 200th birthday.
Yeah.
And he had a host of Lincoln impersonators on, including my old classmate. And so that was kind of cool. But
I bet he's had a lot of fun with that over the years.
I think so.
Yeah.
What was he?
Who, Abe?
Yeah, what party was he?
He was
Republican.
Republican. Yep. And
And that area of the state is a very strong Republican stronghold.
still is.
Even though the capital is there and all the legislation is done in Springfield, right, Dirk?
Yep.
And all the Democrats are in Chicago and all the Republicans are in Southern Illinois.
That's right.
We're wandering off of sports.
Yes,
there.
Yeah, we are.
But-
Yeah.
If any of our viewers are ever near Springfield, the Lincoln Museum is a
yes.
don't miss. It's just super.
Is it?
Been there.
It's fairly new, and it has a lot of high-tech
Yeah.
items. Like one of the things that's really cool, Earl, is they have a stage, like a private theater with a stage, and a holographic Abe Lincoln comes out and talks to you, and it's so real. Me and the kids sat in the front row, we still couldn't tell.
They have another
Wow.
theater which depicts the Civil War and battles going on. And when there's a cannon explosion, the seats shake.
Yep.
It's,
Wow.
it
Yeah.
catches you by surprise for the first time it happens.
We've been there
It's-
too, but how old is that? The new museum it's only about, what, 10 years
I'd
old?
say
maybe?
10.
10.
About
Yeah.
10, yeah.
Yep. And it is fun to visit Abe's old house in Springfield.
Yeah.
It's very well kept.
Yeah, I hear he was quite athletic.
Well, he was a wrestler.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah.
And that's one of the famous, the Clary Boys. I think it was the Clary Boys, who were bullies. And they were picking on women, and they tried to pick on Abe, and he threw them, literally. He threw them over his shoulder. And nobody messed with Abe anymore.
Yeah.
So happy birthday, Abe Lincoln.
Just one guy messed with Abe.
Yep, John Wilkes Booth. But he
That's
had to
right.
come from behind to do it.
That's right.
Somebody told me, I didn't know this, but Abe Lincoln was Jewish.
Oh, yeah?
He was shot in the temple.
Oh, my.
Oh, man.
150
That's a
years
one-liner,
later.
dude.
Yeah.
That's-
Walked
story.
into that one, Bob.
That was really a good part.
That's an old Illinois joke from a Jacksonville boy, right
Yeah,
there?
that's right. That's right. So back to sports, modern day sports. It was a great week to be a Hawkeye,
Yes.
wasn't it, though? And not such a good week to be a Michigan Wolverine.
Although they came back last night.
Ooh,
They did.
Yes, they did.
Took down Ohio State in Columbus.
I didn't. I picked Ohio State to win that game.
This is not a year.
Wish they would've.
Normally,
Yes.
you'd pick the home team this time of year in the Big Ten. This year, lots of teams are getting road wins, and the interchange
Yeah,
between Ohio State, Michigan, Iowa has been weird. I mean,
Yes.
Michigan beats us fairly handily in Ann Arbor. We beat them fairly handily down here. We beat Ohio State in Columbus. They beat us here.
Yeah.
And they in Michigan have had the same thing.
Well, the Hawkeyes will get a chance to return the favor to Michigan State.
that's right.
But
Yeah.
first, they've got to get through a game at Penn State. That's-
Saturday, huh?
Yeah, Saturday. Let's see here.
I believe it's on at, what, 11, 12?
The
Saturday morning?
Hawkeye men's game is on at noon
High noon?
Saturday. High noon on Saturday on the Big Ten Network.
Is that Eastern time or Central?
That is Central Time.
Okay.
We don't deal in Eastern Time here.
That's true.
You've been living.
But the Big Ten
I've been
Network
in the Eastern
does.
time.
Yes,
zone,
yes,
I know. It
It just
drives me
throws
nuts.
people off. If
It
you
does.
look on the website, you gotta be careful because they
Yes.
list everything in Eastern
You really
times.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, back to that Michigan game for just a moment. The game was on Saturday here in Iowa City, and the weather was horrible. Just horrible.
God, the interstate was closed for 3 hours.
And did you hear what happened? They funneled all of the interstate traffic just before the game.
Back on First Avenue.
Bingo.
Oh,
I was wondering where it
good
went.
move.
Was
All
not a
those
good plan.
semis blocking.
Well, that's the emergency detour
Right.
for Interstate
I
80. So
suppose,
it's
yeah.
predetermined where they go.
That's right.
That crowd was still packed. The students showed up in force. There were only a few empty seats up high behind the student section. That was it.
Was it a late arriving crowd
Yeah.
because of the auto
Absolutely,
accident?
absolutely. I wondered where everybody was when I sat down
Yeah,
5-10 minutes before the game, and by golly, they showed up and they were loud and they were appreciative, and it was the game we
Why do you need
hoped.
appreciative?
That's a fair question, Earl. I think they were appreciative of the effort that the Hawkeyes put
Yeah.
out. It was,
It was great.
yeah.
that was the best game Iowa played, don't you think?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Best one,
Yeah.
best home
Well,
game
sorry.
in
First
in
6 or 7
years.
minutes, Devin Marble's first 6 or 7 minutes were unbelievable.
Yes.
Do you think he got really inspired because he didn't play that well in Ann Arbor, in his home state, when they beat us over there? I mean, maybe he got, he had a little more incentive this time?
Oh,
Well, it could well be. I have a friend who
What a
lives in
start.
Michigan, who's a big Michigan fan, who emailed me right after the game saying, "Have we seen the last of the Marbles?" And I emailed him back. I said, "Well, hope springs eternal for 20 or 22 years from now."
Yeah. Right.
Well,
Let's see
doesn't
it
he have a
third.
younger sister who's a basketball player in Des Moines?
I think he has
I believe so.
half-sisters in about 2 or 3 locations.
I think you're right.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, he had,
Wow.
But Des Moines, yes.
yeah. Well, Roy Devon had maybe the most important game of his career, if not the best. That first half was just lightning in a bottle. His first 3 shots were 3-pointers, and he made I think he made all 3 of them.
He did.
yeah.
It may have been the most important to him personally in that it was on ESPN. So
Yes.
lots more people saw
yes.
that than would normally see it.
Yeah. And it wasn't just Roy Devon Marble. It was a complete team effort. Mike Gassell, again, led the charge, set the pace. He really got after it. And when he does that, good things happen.
I agree.
His last half of the season here so far, he had kind of a slow start, but he's
Yes, he
really
did.
picked it up. And, he's learning on the move. He's in the middle of his second year, and you can see the difference.
He actually mentioned that, Bob, now that I'm thinking about it, I believe
Yeah.
it may have been on Fran's weekly show, that he was surprised, much basketball as he played and as highly prized as he was as a recruit, he was still taken by surprise when he actually got to the Big Ten season last year and realized how fast and strong and athletic the competition was.
Yeah.
And he said he thinks he's playing a lot better now, partially because he's made himself stronger and quicker, clearly more confident than he was a year ago.
You know, Michigan wanted to target him and stop him, and they couldn't do it.
Yeah.
And not only offensively, but Roy Devon Marble shut down Nick Stauskas,
Yes.
the scoring, who everybody's picking as the Big Ten Player of the Year so far.
Seriously?
Oh, yeah.
Well, they were a couple weeks ago. I
A
don't
couple
know if
weeks
they-
ago,
I
yeah.
don't know
Yeah,
if
That
it's-
might have slowed down a
if
little
they
bit. at
still
this point.
are. If Adrian Payne finishes the year injury-free,
Yeah.
I think he's going to be pretty
Yeah,
hard to beat
that's
out.
true.
Of course, everybody votes for Aaron Kraft, whether he deserves it or not. He had an air ball last night.
He
Yes,
sure
he
did.
did.
I saw
You
that.
know,
If it wasn't in Columbus, he would have been hooted out of the gym.
come on, isn't
Boy,
he a
they
little
were
bit
quiet.
overrated?
They were quite.
Oh, he's awfully good.
Who-
Defensively
Kraft.
especially.
I mean, he put the clamps on Marble
He did here.
in the game here.
We put the clamps on him.
He's
at
given away
Columbus.
a half a foot, and he still shut him down.
Yeah, yeah.
That Nick Stauskas,
Mm-hmm.
much bigger in person than I realized.
Oh, is he really?
Oh, he's a big, tall guy.
6'6".
I didn't realize. he was
Solid.
that tall.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Solid.
Yeah,
He's a sophomore, right?
he spent a lot of time in the weight room. Sophomore, I think, is right.
Yes, yes. He'll play in the NBA. I'm just convinced.
Because he came in off the bench last year as a freshman and was the three-point expert, wasn't he?
Yes, he
For
was.
that great, good Michigan team last year. That
You know, it was interesting. I don't know how many of you heard the radio post-game show, but Beeline,
Oh.
they had tape of Beeline at his press conference, and somebody asked him how they managed to shut down Stauskas, and he said, "I don't want to tell you." He said, "I don't like to talk about specifics like that, how somebody did something." And you know, I'm sure he's thinking, well, people are going to try to do the same thing that Iowa did, whatever it was.
But from his standpoint, that's a good stand to take.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Yeah,
too
no,
many
I-
times people get too verbal on the radio
Yeah,
or TV and give away some of those.
I understand that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Well, the Hawkeyes and Roy, it wasn't just Roy Devon Marble.
yeah.
It was Mike Gasell. It was a host of people who
That
stopped
guy,
him.
the guy in the middle. He's-
Ogosini and Woodbury.
Ogosini.
and- Yeah.
I thought he played just great.
I think he's one of the most important players on the team.
Boy, don't you wish we'd have redshirted him the first year? Because, man, he's really come on strong.
Well,
He's
he got.
Because he's got another year, I realize, after this. But
Yeah.
You always do looking back, but
yeah,
the truth is we needed him.
Yeah, we really
yeah, I
did.
guess so.
We were pretty thin.
And we needed him to get that game
It
experience.
was a tough
That's right.
year.
Golly, he makes his free throws.
He does.
Yes.
And they
But
don't
also-
look pretty coming out of his hand.
When he was a freshman,
Oh, yeah.
you didn't know where it was going.
That's right. That's
You
exactly
often
right.
wouldn't hit the rim,
Yeah.
sometimes short,
I
sometimes
bet,
wide.
I bet he shot less than 50% from the line in
He's
his
worked
first
at it.
year.
Well, the
Yeah.
same thing is true of Woodbury.
Yeah,
As a
true.
freshman, his percentage was really low. This year, he's up in the high 60s, low 70s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Woodbury had another really strong game, especially defensively. He doesn't get nearly enough credit for his presence in the middle, in the paint.
White has a good game, bad game. He's all across the board.
Yeah, he's inconsistent. I think Roy Devon Marble's inconsistent still.
Yeah.
Not just offensively, but the game the Hawkeyes played against Michigan was the game we hoped they would bring against Ohio State and Michigan State. If they do, they win both those games handily. Both those teams should have been beaten at Carver Hawkeye. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Oh, that Michigan State game really got away.
It was a stinker.
Oh, man.
And Ohio State was even worse, the Ohio State game.
Yeah.
Just a real stinker.
But the fans, that's what kind of basketball they want.
Yeah.
The Michigan game?
No, this season overall,
Yeah.
because it was really good basketball.
What impressed you most about the Michigan game, Earl? About the Hawkeyes' effort?
Boy, it was beautiful. That's all about playing it at home. You know, it's just you got your fans there. You know, the whole ball of wax.
Bump Elliott was there.
Yeah, and something funny happened. I don't know whether he was there for the women's game, I know, wasn't he?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Well, if he was, he sat in a different seat.
Yeah, he did,
Oh, he might have been then.
Well, it seems like
but,
it's hard to get them. I mean, we had a lot of players play well against Michigan. You usually don't have that many. You know, that was really a team effort
Yeah.
at both ends of the floor.
Now, one of the things that was different in the Michigan game from Michigan State and Ohio State was Michigan's defense was porous.
Yeah.
They didn't play nearly as
Yeah.
tough a defense as either Michigan State or Ohio State,
Agreed.
and we took advantage of it.
Matador
Agreed.
defense.
But again, the start of the game was,
and that was beautiful.
Marble was just
Oh,
unconscious is the word that gets used.
It,
He
it set
was.
the pace for the rest of the game. It got the fans involved from the get-go. There was no let-up. Michigan didn't back down either. That Levert is a heck of a player. Is he just a sophomore?
You know, I'm not sure that,
He's played a couple of great games against us.
Yes, he
the other
did.
guy they've got is just a freshman who I think is gonna be really good is this Zach Irvin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh, he can shoot for a
He
big
can.
man. My goodness.
and he played
Yeah.
very well against us.
He's got a strange delivery of the
Mhm.
shot.
Yeah.
but-
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of Ola Shaney, the way it comes. Big hands, and
Well,
then
he's
the way it
farther
comes
away
off.
from the basket
Yes.
than Olashani.
Yes, that's true. But for a big man, he can really knock him down.
well, Michigan, they're leading the Big Ten now, aren't they? I mean,
Are they?
after
Well,
that
they're-
Ohio State victory
They're
last night.
probably half a game ahead.
I would think.
Yeah, they both, Michigan State and Michigan both have 2 losses in the conference.
I assume Michigan State must play tonight.
Let's
don't know who
see.
we're-
Michigan
we're-
is 10-2. Michigan State 9-2. Iowa 7-4.
What's the rest of it? Can you have the?
Yeah, Wisconsin is 6-5. Ohio State 6-6. Minnesota 5-6, as is Northwestern. Indiana 4-6, as is Nebraska. Purdue is 4-7, and Illinois and Penn State bring up the bottom at 3-8.
You know, this is the time of year where everybody begins to speculate how many teams are gonna get in the NCAA tournament from which conference. What do you guys have an opinion? How many Big Ten teams are gonna make it? If I said 5,
I think 6 have a chance.
who do you think will be the 6?
Minnesota. Their record is 16-8. I think they're well coached and they've got some real talent. I think Hawkeyes are going to have a real hard time winning up there.
Probably.
Again, Minnesota is 5-6 in conference, but they're 16-8. To give you some perspective, Northwestern is also 5-6 in conference, but their overall record is 12-12.
Which is much better than anybody anticipated. That Chris Collins has done a really good job with his team.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have a lot of talent. But I agree with you, Dirk. To answer Pat's question, I'd say 6 teams for the NCAA.
Yeah, we'll see how Minnesota shakes out.
Yeah.
You never know about Ohio State. I mean, we
I
know
think- I still
Oh,
think
they'll be fine.
we'll beat them up there,
Minnesota.
yeah.
Well, I hope you're right, Murph. That'd be great. That'd be a tough victory.
Tonight we have Penn State at Indiana, and we
Okay.
have Illinois at Nebraska. I think Indiana and Nebraska win those games. Thursday, tomorrow night, Northwestern at Michigan State, and then Minnesota at Wisconsin.
Ooh,
That should be a good game there.
yeah.
We'll see.
Because they both have,
That was the one that went into 3 overtimes, wasn't it?
That's right, Pat. I forgot about that.
we'd probably like to see Minnesota win up at Wisconsin, but that'll be tough to do.
Well, and what's nice too, Penn State only has about 2.5 days to turn around and host Iowa after playing at Indiana tonight.
Well, another key thing too, I think, going back to kind of what Pat was talking about, the NCAA tournament, we go to the Big Ten tournament, and if you're in the top 4, you get that first day bye,
Mm-hmm.
which is a big deal.
That's right.
And so we certainly don't want to finish worse than 4th.
That's
One
right.
one of the things along that line that is interesting to me this year, there are a lot of people who think the Big Ten is the strongest conference in the country. The Big 12 certainly would argue with that, but
Yeah,
I think those are the 2 strongest. And a relatively small number of teams will likely make the tournament, partially because the league is strong at the bottom, and bottom teams occasionally knock off ones at the top.
Yeah,
And if you played Big Ten SEC Challenge, all 12 teams, Northwestern, Illinois, and Nebraska would have a very good chance at beating the bottom of the SEC.
Oh, yeah,
true.
absolutely. No doubt about it.
And the ACC, the bottom, is not as strong as normal
Probably
either.
the
is
same
it?
thing.
Yeah.
At the top, they're fairly decent.
Yeah, not as good as they have been, probably.
I have a little bit of an interesting statistic that you guys probably haven't seen. Maybe Pat has. Let's see, I got to read this properly. Iowa is one of only 7 teams in the nation with no losses, 0 losses outside the RPI index top 25. They're 2-0 against teams ranked 26 through 50, and 5-0 versus teams ranked 51 through 100.
Interesting,
Yeah, it means they've beaten who they needed to beat
yes.
each and every time. Although, you know, you can argue when Michigan State came to town, they needed to be beaten here. They were injured and ripe for the picking, and it didn't happen for whatever reason. But in this game, you got to move on and move on quickly.
Yeah,
And before we know it, after the Iowa men's basketball game Saturday at noon at Penn State, they have to go back on Tuesday night to Bloomington, Indiana for, let's see, that game tips off at 8 p.m. Both of those games are on the Big Ten Network. And, you know, it's crunch time. Every game is so important at this stage.
You know, I'm beginning to
Yeah.
think that Tom, if you start to look ahead at coaches in longevity,
Uh-huh.
I don't think Tom Crean is a very good coach. And
Good point.
I don't
I-
either.
I wonder if the
I can agree.
powers that be at Indiana are gonna begin to think
Yeah.
about making a change.
seems to be a better recruiter than a coach.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And Bob, you can't see him on the sideline, but there's something almost maniacal
Yes, there is.
about the
He-
way he paces.
And if you see him interviewed in a non-game setting, he's calm and
Yeah.
reasonable and articulate, but he's just nuts when the game's.
He looks like a mad scientist
You-
pacing
you
back and
use
forth.
Funny words.
Maniacal?
Yes.
I can't think of a better word to describe his
What does it
facial
mean? I'm trying to get
expressions.
Means he's a maniac.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Maybe his brother-in-law's intensity is worn out of him.
Who's his brother-in-law?
Jim
Hartley.
Harbaugh.
That's
Harbaugh.
right. That's right.
You know, interject a Harbaugh story. The Big Ten Network reran the Iowa 1985 season
Saw
film
that.
last night,
Saw that.
and
Yeah,
Rob Houtland said, well, Harbaugh whined at the right time. That was back in the days when the refs would stop play because the crowd was so loud.
Crowd noise.
Well, Harbaugh was whining at the right time.
You know,
That's right.
you talk about a guy that whines, the Michigan State coach. He's a
Izzo.
whiner. He's
You
the
know,
whiner of the
yeah.
year.
and you know what, he's always done that, and the other guy, there's Bo Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
those guys never get teed up,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, there is a pecking order. there.
Izzo is usually not demonstrative about it. He's not
Yeah.
usually flailing his arms or charging out to
Right.
find
Yeah.
the ref.
Right.
He does it very subtly. As they go by him, he's in their ear constantly.
Yep.
Every time the ref goes by, he's telling him something.
Yeah,
He doesn't have Tom Izzo doesn't have the expression on his face after a call that goes
Oh, yeah.
against
Oh.
his team that the Wisconsin coach, Bo Ryan, has.
and
That's right.
fans, they protest every call,
Oh,
don't they?
jeez. The players,
In Wisconsin?
they express utter shock that they could have been considered for a foul.
Yeah.
But, you know, we said this on the show, I think, last week.
Okay.
I think the Iowa players really exhibit, what's the word? A professional cool. When a
Decorum.
foul, yeah, decorum. When a call goes against them, you know, other than Zach McCabe. Zach, always seems to have a look of disbelief that he just took the head off one of his opponents.
Well, which brings up a point. Has one Iowa player been called for a technical this year?
Hmm.
Yes, last game,
Really?
yeah,
The Michigan game?
yes,
Was there a flagrant
yeah.
foul
A
call?
figure, on a the Michigan guy drove into the bucket and the guy, the center that has complete turnabout,
Was it
Woodbury?
yes, no,
Olashani?
Olashani?
Shady.
Oh, he did.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at least it wasn't an intentional kind of
Well, they called.
teed up because you said something
Oh, no.
negative
No,
or
no.
No.
reacted to a call or,
I just think it's a
Yeah.
good sign of
Okay.
of a strong program when you've got players that are able to maintain their cool in spite of calls going against them at home or on the road. You don't see the Hawkeye players playing to the home crowd like you do Wisconsin.
Say, a guy that's slipped a great deal is the yard. Yeah, he plays.
Clemens.
Clemens, Anthony
Clemens.
Clemens.
Yeah.
Hello.
He, doggone it, forgot to turn my phone off. Yeah, Clemens got in for just a second, and he did something wrong.
Yeah, I know.
Because Coach,
Yeah,
they chewed him.
yeah.
They chewed on him when he came back to the bench, and that was it. You didn't see him the rest of the game.
Yeah, I think that was it did. It took the ball away from him.
Yeah.
I think that was it.
You're right, Murph. He had a lot more minutes last year, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's and I know he wanted to play
Oh,
against his
yes.
home state team
Yeah.
Yes.
and do well against Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be if he sticks around, and I'm
Yeah,
sure
I
he
know.
will. He'll be fine.
Yeah.
yeah.
He's
Well-
just had a case of the yips, as they say. He gets nervous.
Well, he'll be fine, but from the reports out in the recruiting services, France seems to be looking fairly seriously for
Yeah.
a point guard.
As one who's ready to go now,
Yeah.
junior
Yeah,
college.
not a high school point guard,
Right.
but a JC.
Well,
And that's what he needs, really.
That's right.
we don't have anybody to step in to fill Roy Marvel's shoes right now. And Roy will be gone, as will Zach McCabe and Melson Basabi.
Right.
And we've heard the coaches come to our Monday morning quarterback meeting and say, we're looking for a point guard.
Point
and
guard
we're
and a
looking for
power forward.
Yeah, a long,
That's
lanky
those two.
forward.
And they can wait on the forward and save that scholarship, but that,
I don't think they're gonna.
don't you? You
Nope.
think they're gonna use it
I
up,
think
guys?
do.
I think they want a power forward to take Basabi and McCabe's role.
Okay.
Yep.
So
What
that'll
about-
probably
what-
also come from the junior
about
college
Aaron
ranks,
White?
right?
Yeah.
He's a junior.
I think next year they may move him from where he's playing now into the power forward position. But I think his skill set is so much better used
Yes.
close to the basket than it is out.
Which
on the
player is this,
perimeter.
Pat?
Aaron White.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The Jinja Ninja.
He's tremendous around the basket.
Yeah.
I think he's a good teammate too.
Oh,
He
yes.
gets the kids fired up. He doesn't seem to berate or belittle his teammates when he
Yeah.
easily could. There have been some moments, and he just doesn't do that.
You know, I should throw in, I was critical of Jared Utoff's effort against Ohio State, and he only played about 8 minutes. Well, it turns out he was sick.
Really?
Yeah.
Flu?
They haven't identified what it was, they've just
I think
described
it
it.
What about
as
Marble and
sick.
White? Were they all? Because I swore they had played like they were
I
ill.
don't know, the only one they've attributed illness to was Utah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's Hawkeye men's basketball. It's been a great week for them, and we're looking forward to the games Saturday at noon and Tuesday at 8 p.m. on the road against Penn State and Indiana. Should be interesting. No cupcake either game, either place.
You know, Iowa could they have a guard here that's just great. She happens to be a girl.
Well, and that's a very nice transition into
Yes.
an historic victory for Lisa Bluter
Oh,
and the
yes.
Hawkeye women's basketball
Really,
team.
really two historic victories, starting
True.
at Penn State.
Good
That's right.
point. Yeah, since we last had our show, I don't know about you, Pat, that I had little faith that the women could go to Penn State and win
No,
that game.
I confess, I was not optimistic,
Yeah.
but my
This-
goodness, that was a big win. And they controlled the tempo right from the start.
I don't know how they do that. They play better on the road.
Well, I think one of the ways they do it is just what Earl was saying. I'm now convinced that the Big Ten Player of the Year is Samantha Logic.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yes.
mean, Maggie Lucas is terrific.
Yep. Heck of a shooter.
Rachel Banham is terrific, but if you look at the total bundle of skills, I don't think there's anybody in the conference that's better than Sam Logic. Offensively, controlling the tempo, passing the ball, she leads the league in assists. She's I think, in the top 10 in the country in assists. She's developed a three-point shot. She's starting to score more. When she posts up and gets the ball, she's unstoppable. Her defense is good. She's been guarding the other team's best scorer. She's just doing everything.
And I think,
Well-
too, what you can't measure is the intelligence that Samantha Logic displays on the court. You know, she'll throw a few bad passes here and there to get picked off.
Well, she threw one Monday night.
Yeah.
Clear out of bounds.
She threw more than one bad one Monday night against Northwestern,
Yeah.
but she overcame it. And
She impresses me with her rebounding. From a
Oh,
guard
my-
standpoint.
She's
I
our
mean,
leading rebounder.
Yeah,
Isn't that something?
I mean, and she's a guard. She's got a nose for the ball, is what she's got.
Well, she's
She's
tenacious.
everywhere. Yes. And, you know, if there's a loose ball, who's on the floor first, right?
Absolutely.
that's what I try to tell my son. I said, look how she hits the floor at the right time. You know, you want your players to stay on their feet until the ball's loose and then hit the floor.
Yeah.
And it's not second nature for most kids to do that.
When you see her run down the floor, you'd have no idea how good she is. She runs with these mincy little
Yeah.
steps.
Yeah.
Kind of
Looks
plodding.
totally unathletic.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah,
She's just
kind of
terrific.
plodding.
Yeah.
Well, she was a McDonald's All-American.
Yes.
She's
Yeah.
really coming into her own.
And I think she speaks well, too, when she appears in front of the media.
Well, the whole team does.
Yeah.
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 The game at Penn State was just simply unbelievable. I think I told Pat earlier, my son had a basketball game out of town that night, and we got in the car just as the second half started. And, you know, I told him, I said, well, don't get your hopes up. And when we heard the score, Hawks are up, I think by 3 points. And by the time we got home and switched on the TV, they were up 5 or 6. And then just as soon as we turned it on, here comes a Penn State run, and they take the lead. And you're thinking, oh, boy.
Oh, here we go.
Here we go. And then Samantha Logic led that comeback, not so much by scoring points, but by feeding the scorers, whether it was Bethany Doolittle or our freshman, Allie Disterhoff, who just hit big shot after big shot.
She only missed one the
Yeah.
whole game.
Made all her free throws.
Missed a layup.
Yeah, that's right.
Made all the threes.
8 of 9 field goals, all 6 free throws.
24 points, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tied a career high for her. This team does more with less than any I've known.
Well, and they've got 5 players averaging double figures. That's fairly rare.
Yeah. Oh, it's very rare.
Yeah.
Is that the girl's name is Dixon?
Melissa
Melissa
Dixon.
Dixon.
Yeah, she had a good
Well,
game.
she's a terrific shooter.
Oh,
Yes.
my,
She
yeah.
struggled a little this year to
She has.
get her shot, but that's because the opponents are trying to deny her the ball, and she's got such a quick release that the defensive approach to Melissa is to try to keep the ball away from her,
yeah.
because they
Yeah.
know if she gets it, she's gonna release it
Boy,
quickly.
she
and
gets hot,
goes
like
in.
she did
She did
against
Monday night.
Northwestern.
Monday night. Yeah.
She did Monday night.
Yeah.
And there's another game, similar to Penn State, although this time at home, where Iowa gets the lead, and every time they build a decent, if not double-digit lead, here comes the opponent. And at one point, midway through the second half, Northwestern took a 1-point lead. And that was
Might have
after
been their only lead.
Well, it was.
I think it was, yeah.
And that was after about an 8-0 run by Northwestern. And you're just thinking,
And
oh,
they
no.
were taller than we were.
Well, they're getting better.
And
too.
athletic, too.
They've got 2 guards. I don't know how they do this, but they went to Texas and recruited 2 freshman guards. Their 2 starting guards are from Texas.
The lefty and
Well, they've got a couple of lefties. Then they've got this girl from Minneapolis. I talked about Sam Logic as the Big Ten Player of the Year. They've got a girl who's going to be the Big Ten Player of the Year by the time she's a junior or senior.
Isn't she a freshman
Her
also?
name is Nia Coffey. She is a
Yeah.
freshman from Minneapolis. We tried very hard to recruit her, as did Minnesota. Somehow Northwestern got her. I'm
Amazing.
always interested in watching their coach. His name is Joe Koenig. He comes out before the game and he just smiles and sweetness, and he's hugging people and walking all the way around the court saying hello to anybody who'll talk to him. And then the first time in the game when the referee blows a whistle, he turns into a maniac.
He does.
Yeah.
Waving his arms and
Coat
yelling.
comes flying off. Did he have a tie to start that game?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
the tie was gone.
Well, he had a successful career, didn't he, Pat? Somewhere out, was he out
George
east?
Washington, he was out east.
Oh, okay.
He was there for a long time.
Men
Yeah.
or women?
Women.
Women?
Yeah.
Well, he's got a good team.
That's gonna get better.
Now, I'm going to say something, and at the end of the game, Hawkeyes won. They held on. I mean, Northwestern came back, and they made it a close finish after Iowa had built what looked to be an insurmountable lead late in the
Yes.
game. With a minute to go, I think we were up 8 points, 9 points. Long story short, at the end of regulation, as the horn goes off, we look to center court, and there is freshman Claire Till lying motionless on the floor right about the jump ball center mark. And I'm looking around like, what the heck happened? Well, it turns out she caught an elbow in the mouth.
Oh,
And so she gets helped up by the medical staff, brought back to the bench, and she's clearly holding her mouth. They've got an ice pack on it. And every one of those Northwestern players had to walk right past her. Every one of those Northwestern coaches had to file past her. Not one of them asked to see how she's doing or offered her any kind of best wishes. And I have not seen the replay, but I've read from a number of people who did that said it didn't appear to be flagrant, but nonetheless, she caught an elbow from number 10
Oh,
right in the mouth. And Claire's mom, Shelley Till, who does the radio color commentary on KXAC and often does Big Ten color.
and does an excellent job.
She
but-
does. She mentioned late last night on Facebook that Claire's got 2 loose teeth, one of them pushed pretty much all the way back. They put braces on her,
Oh,
temporary braces for 10 days, and they'll see how it goes.
Are they gonna let her play?
She said she was at practice yesterday.
well, they did mention that, I listened to the radio, and they did mention that, you know, what you just mentioned, and her mother said, oh my, I hope we don't have any more dental bills.
Oh, they're gonna.
Yeah, well.
And it's gonna be a long time.
I don't know if she saw it, the shot, but she definitely saw her laying there, of course.
Pat, did you see it?
I didn't. I just saw her down and I didn't see what happened.
Well-
I was afraid it was a knee.
Yeah.
She was obviously upset, pounding the court, and she was crying.
She's in a lot of pain.
Obviously in a lot of pain, but you never know if she's bit her tongue or there's a
Right.
cut, and you can't.
But you know, why does that happen when the game is over
That's my question.
and the clock is off? Why is that physical contact from another player even happening?
And I'm told the referees looked at the replay, but because the celebration was going on for Lisa Bluter,
Well, the game was over.
yeah.
yeah,
Wouldn't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
mattered if
No.
they'd called a flagrant foul.
Well, Lisa had it.
How
she
about
enjoyed
Lisa,
it.
huh?
Yeah.
well, Lisa Bluter just became the all-time winningest basketball coach in University of Iowa history, men or women. And ironically, C. Vivian Stringer and Dr. Tom Davis were both tied at 269 victories.
Yeah, I thought that was.
I
And
didn't,
that's,
I didn't know, or if I knew, I didn't remember that. It's
Yeah, it was-
really kind of strange
Yeah.
coincidence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew Tom was around C. Vivian, but I thought she was ahead of him.
Nope. Tied. And then after the game, they had a nice video tribute that featured, who was the player?
Lindsay Meter.
Lindsay Meter, Dr. Lindsay Meter.
From
Yeah.
Solon, Iowa.
Lindsay Meter Coward is now her.
Yeah. And of course, it featured C. Vivian Stringer and Kirk Ferentz.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I don't know about you, Pat, but I could not understand what they were saying.
I think the arena's sound system is pretty bad.
Yeah. It was terrible.
Anything that's spoken over the Hawk Vision system is hard to understand.
Yeah.
Operator error.
Oh, yeah.
I would say, I mean, the system ought to be
operator.
there. I mean, we just remodeled the place.
I'm looking up to, I mean, everything comes from up top in the ceilings, and I'm looking around to see if anybody else can hear what is being
Whose
said.
responsibility is that?
Whose responsibility is that, Jeff?
But you can hear Dave Gallagher, who
Right.
does the PA, and you can hear
The
Mark
athletic
Camp.
director.
Thank you.
You can hear Mark Camps, but it's,
Yeah.
the Hawk
Yeah.
Vision system sound is not good.
It just isn't. So I didn't get to see what was, or hear what was said until afterwards when I got home and watched it online.
Yeah.
But it was very nice tributes from Vivian Stringer, very nice, funny tribute from Kirk Ferentz, who said, we both started at roughly the same time. You were pregnant, I was not.
Yeah.
I thought that was clever.
They
It would've
showed her
been-
being pregnant on the screen, didn't they, when she did
Yes,
the
her
job?
introduction,
What is this meter? What kind of doctor is she?
dentist.
Dennis,
Dentist.
Yep.
I get the biggest kick out of her. She went to Mass at St. Mary's all the time.
Lindsay Meter?
Yeah, she's Catholic.
Mhm.
And she
St.
was-
Mary's, yeah.
Yeah.
her parents still sit in the front row,
Do they?
across the court.
Really?
Yeah, Joe and Peg,
Where?
right beside the broadcast table.
That's them?
Yeah,
I'll be darned. I wondered who that was. I figured it's just some big shot
yeah, they're
contributors.
there every night.
They are. I'll be darned. I thought it'd been nice to have Dr. Tom Davis on that video clip, but maybe he
True.
wasn't around. But it sure was nice of Vivian, and she spoke very highly of her time here at Iowa and how special it is.
Yes.
And it spoke about how special Lisa Bluter is. Pat, we all know. We all know Lisa personally.
Well, she lost her husband here.
Yeah. Viv.
Yeah.
I think his name was Bill. Bill? No?
Yes.
And it was
Yeah.
at Thanksgiving.
Yep,
time.
Thanksgiving
Well,
Day.
she still has relatives here. Sister
Yes.
Yeah.
still lives here.
Yeah, and now she's back in the Big Ten as of
Yeah.
next
Yeah.
year.
Well, she'll be coming,
Yeah.
coming to
I
town.
think that's great.
What?
I think it
Oh,
will,
yeah.
yes.
Rutgers.
She's still at Rutgers, and
Oh,
they'll be
geez, yeah,
playing
what
here
am I
next year.
thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's still at Rutgers, my goodness.
Yeah.
Now, we won't play, I mean, I don't think they figured out how to schedule all this yet, but we won't be playing every team every year here.
Right.
But we'll play every team at least once,
Right.
either here or there.
Well, how many victories does C. Vivian Stringer
She
have?
has a lot. But total, Lisa's over 600.
Yeah.
626
I mean, that's really impressive.
at St. Ambrose, Drake, and Iowa.
That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah. And she's had Jan Jensen and Jenny Fitzgerald the whole way, or at least
Not at
since
St.
At Iowa.
Not at St.
at
Ambrose.
Drake and
Yeah.
here.
Drake and Iowa, is that
Yeah.
right? Okay.
And that you just don't see
No.
anymore.
No.
The same assistants.
Well, as Lisa said, and as Pat well knows, because he's close to all of them, that they're great friends. That's a
Yeah.
big part of it, that, they're like family, right, Pat?
Well,
Have you
they
talked
they
about
are,
Tom Brady?
Bob, and one of the things that I've volunteered over there since I retired, and I've actually wrote a couple things for HawkeyeSports.com, and in interviewing players, and I've gotten to know some of the
Yeah.
players, that's really the first thing they all say. If you ask them, why did you decide to come to Iowa? They all use the word family. I felt comfortable here. It felt like my family. I felt at home. I found other women that I wanted to spend my 4 years in college with, and I found a surrogate mother. They all say basically the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just
Old Dave was
phenomenal.
quite a guy.
Yeah,
Well, all of that
breed.
breeds
Yeah.
success, you know?
Yeah. Well, the women have another big home game tomorrow night, Thursday, at 8 p.m. when the dirty, stinking, cheating Illini come to town. That game will be on the Big Ten Network.
What
And
time is it? you
8
said?
p.m.
Okay.
you can tell 8 o'clock games are on the Big Ten Network.
Yeah.
That's no kidding.
6 and 8 slots.
And that's not good for my kids, but you know what? We're going to be there. There's just, what, one more home game after tomorrow night,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah.
They have to go to Purdue for a Sunday 1 o'clock game. Of course, no TV for that one. No TV for the road game, TV for the home game. But as always, KXAC with Brent Balbinot and Shelley Till will have the action for us.
Well, let me ask you this, Pat. and this is recall here, do the
Yeah.
women play 16 home games or
Yeah,
18?
16.
That,
Not ho-
it's two
not-
less than the men, that's what I thought.
Not home games, but 16 total, 8 home,
Total,
8 on the road.
yeah. Why is that? Do you know?
Yeah, because their Big Ten tournament is a week earlier.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
They need to get their season over and get into the tournament, which for the women starts, I think, like the 6th of March. Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
So they're 7-4 in the conference, so they
Correct.
only have 5 conference games left, the women, that is.
Yes,
And the men have 7, okay.
Yeah.
yes.
All right.
And there's a lot of similarities going on between the Iowa men and women this year. The men have an overall record of 18-6, where the women are 19-6. Both teams are 7-4 in conference.
Yeah,
We've got 2 really good basketball teams here at the University of Iowa this year.
that's right.
Do yourself a favor, get out tomorrow night, 8 o'clock, Dirty Steak and Cheating Illini in town. Bring the family. Do what my 9-year-old daughter does and screech and scream whenever the opponent shoots a free throw. She swears it works.
Now this, to be fair to Illinois here, this is a new coach.
Yep.
Had nothing to do with any alleged cheating Illinois may have done in the past.
Years ago.
And, I mean, we all
Last year.
agree, Illinois' poor performance in almost every sport is a real mystery.
It's a joy to
True.
me.
I think this guy will build a winner. Illinois is a fairly fertile recruiting ground for basketball, and I think he's already picked up a couple of players from the Chicago area and from other places in Illinois. And I mean, they haven't had a good record this year, and this is his 2nd year. But I'll be surprised if they're not awfully strong in a year or 2.
And you're right, I mean, the athletes they have in the state of Illinois and their programs hurt. Basketball
They really
and
do.
football.
They really do. They've been at the bottom of the Big Ten for quite a while.
That's what cheating will
Yeah.
do for you.
Yeah. Well, if you've ever been to Champaign, you
Cheating
understand.
poorly, I might add. Yeah.
He's not
Champaign
gonna,
doesn't have a lot to offer, in my opinion.
No, a nice smell of manure if you're around the assembly hall. They've got the ag.
Yes.
oh, it's not
farm.
the Assembly Hall anymore.
No, it's not.
State Farm
Oh, yeah.
Center or some,
But their ag school is just south of there, and
Yeah.
it really stinks on a warm spring day. So let's see here. Oh, the Hawkeye wrestlers had their final home wrestling meet of the season, also against Michigan, and this is the same Michigan team who beat #1 ranked Minnesota just a couple of weeks ago. Minnesota upset Penn State, first time Penn State's lost a duel in quite some time. And the Hawkeyes whipped Michigan on senior day, 26-6.
Yeah.
And it was a very exciting meet for the most part. It's always tough to say goodbye to the seniors. Tony Ramos and Derek St. John and Ethan Lofthouse are done playing here at Carver Hawkeye Arena. They've got a road meet at Lehigh this Friday at 6 p.m. on KXIC Live. And then a week after that, they go to Wisconsin, where Barry Davis, former Hawkeye wrestler,
Yeah.
former Hawkeye national champion and All-American, he's got a pretty decent team. They haven't really wrestled anybody yet. I think they're 5-0 in the conference. But the way things look to shape out, you're going to have 4 teams finish 6-1 in the conference: Minnesota, Penn State, Iowa, and Wisconsin.
I don't remember this ever happening. One of the things I love about the current wrestling, 1, 2, 3 in the Big Ten are 1, 2, 3 in the
nation.
country.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And UNI is now up to 5th in the
5th,
country.
yes. And
Yes,
beat
I didn't
Iowa
know
State.
that.
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh, they
They
handed Iowa State.
handed
their
Iowa
head.
State last week.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They got, and
there's a coach in trouble.
Iowa State. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
They're
Yeah.
gonna-
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to be a Cyclone any time of year. Joe, I don't know how many minutes we have left to talk on this show. 11 minutes?
Now, speaking of Iowa State wrestling, how many wrestling programs are there in the Big 12, the 10-team Big 12?
Okie State, Missouri, Iowa State. Nebraska's not there anymore.
No, Missouri's in the SEC.
Oh, that's right.
So you got Oklahoma State, Iowa State. Who else?
That's it.
3 wrestling programs
Is that
in a
right?
major BCS conference.
None of the Texas schools have wrestling.
That's shameful.
You know, there was discussion, it didn't get very far, about inviting you and I to join the Big 12 for wrestling.
Huh.
For that very reason, to try to get more teams to compete against.
Wow.
Well, this year they could probably whip up
Well, they
on
they
just about
Just
everybody.
did.
Let's see, college wrestling. Yeah, Northern Iowa number 5. Okie State is number 7. Oklahoma is number 11. Iowa State number 17 at 8-4.
You gotta wonder if Jamie Pollard won't be dialing up Mark Schwab and see if he can convince him to move to Ames.
Good,
Boy,
good point.
he'd have to offer me a lot of money.
Well,
Good.
I mean,
probably
Northern
offering more
Iowa's-
than I don't know what he makes, but
Yeah.
I bet it's below 100,000.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah.
Well, one of the things we wanted to talk about, and in fact we're discussing before the show began, was the incident the other night with Marcus Smart, who is a phenomenal basketball player for Oklahoma State. He had an incident at Texas Tech where at the very end of the game he went to block a dunk by the opponent who was winning, and he ended up in the stands behind the basket, and one of the fans turns out to be a rabid, diehard Texas Tech fan who travels many miles every year to see these guys play at home and on the road. He said something to Marcus Smart, and Marcus Smart turned around and shoved him. Marcus Smart has been suspended for 3 games, which really hurts Okie State.
Yeah.
This kid's a sophomore, and in fact last year was expected to enter the NBA draft, but didn't.
He actually did more than turn around and shoved him. He turned around, took a couple steps. And
Oh,
shoved
did he?
him. Yeah. They were not face to face. He had to walk just a little ways. This guy's awfully close to the court, but Smart was going full speed trying to block a layup and landed in, you see an array of photographers under the basket. He landed 5-6 feet from the end line, then got helped up and then took a couple steps to push this guy.
Now, Pat, you've looked into this quite a bit, and we all agree that this super fan is a super jerk who is somewhat legendary for the opponents who come to Texas Tech. They've all been warned about this guy who's, what's his name?
His last name is Orr.
Orr, yeah.
I forget his first name.
Now, you
But he-
even knew his occupation, right?
Yeah, he's an air traffic controller.
Right.
Lives in Waco, which is 300 miles from
Lubbock.
Lubbock. So to get to a Texas Tech game, he
Wow.
makes a 600-mile round trip and apparently goes to many, if not most, of their road games.
That's a fan.
I've seen the replays of this at regular speed, in slow motion, in slower motion, time after time. And I've seen one where you can hear what's ascribed to him as "you're a piece of crap." I thought maybe he used some word other than crap, but that's what he's admitted to.
Yeah.
I've not heard the athlete say what he heard. I've not heard a reporter ask him, which I don't really understand, because he had a news conference to apologize for his action. In watching it, it's fairly clear he said something else leading up to "you're a piece of crap." And I've actually read people say that what they think he said was "go back to Africa."
You piece of crap.
And I've looked at the replay in slow motion, and those words seem to fit the
Oh, boy.
movement of his mouth. Now, he hasn't admitted to that. Smart hasn't said that's what he heard. I'm surprised that either Bob Bowlesby or Texas Tech haven't suspended the fan.
They
announced
did.
that he's
Didn't
He
Well,
self-suspended
he
him.
voluntarily
There we
said
go.
he's not gonna go. Well, that's not good enough.
Yeah, you're right.
He ought to be
Yeah.
suspended.
Yeah. I think we'd
Yeah.
feel that way if an Iowa fan had
He ought
done
to take
something
his
like
tickets
that.
away from him.
Yeah, I agree.
That might happen.
He did admit, the fan did admit that he said something he regrets. And piece of crap, you piece of crap, it's not something that a rabid fan would regret saying. And I don't think it's something that a Marcus Smart would react to the way he did.
Well, let me ask you this, was this a flagrant foul when you
Yes.
tried? Okay,
Yep. He got charged with a flagrant foul.
so that's what stirred everything up.
Oh,
No.
no, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pat, you can explain
Well,
it
no,
better.
the guy from Texas Tech was on a breakaway and
Yeah.
Smart was coming behind him trying to block the ball. And to tell you the truth, I don't remember whether he was called for a foul
Yeah,
or not. He was assessed a technical foul for pushing the fan,
Yeah,
and the coach took him out of the game. I don't remember whether he was assessed a personal foul.
I think he did get a personal foul.
What was it, the player black or white?
The Oklahoma State player was black, Marcus Smart is black, and the Texas Tech player, I think, was white, although I'm not
Couldn't tell you.
positive of that either.
well, yeah.
But this
Yeah,
this fan has clearly denied making any comment that was racist.
okay.
Now, nobody's contradicted that, other than people who have looked at this tape. I gather there's at least one source who was somewhere near where this happened who thought he heard something else about Africa.
But as you indicated, you know, yeah, the league needs to do something about the fan.
And that's
I mean,
Bob Bowlesby.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what Smart did wasn't the right thing either. I mean, he got
No,
caught up in
no,
the
he's-
emotions, but
He
that
needed-
could really hurt his team. I mean, they have a chance for the NCAA tournament, and if he's got a 3-game suspension, if they lose all 3 games, that could cost him
well,
the tourney.
they're pretty much on the
Bubble.
margin for getting in now. I think they're maybe a little below the bubble. They started well and haven't played
Right.
so well
Yeah.
the last month. But one of the ironies is the 4th game, when he's eligible to come off suspension, Texas Tech comes to Stillwater.
Oh, my. Oh, that's,
He might have some
bet on
incentive.
Oklahoma State that night.
Yeah,
No
so
kidding.
Mr. Rohr won't be there.
That's
No,
for
he
sure.
won't.
Yeah.
No, he won't. I know we're running out of time. I do want to mention that the City High girls defeated West High last night rather handily at West High, and they are now 20-0 on the season. They are number 1 ranked. Haley Lorenzen, the daughter of former Hawkeye Al Lorenzen, continues to just dominate play, and I will continue to regret that she chose to go to Florida for college
Yeah.
instead of Iowa. I'm sorry, but I choose not to get over that. But City High, number 1 ranked in the state. The Regina boys and girls lost last week, and they don't play again. I don't know when the girls play. The boys don't play again until the 20th.
I think the girls play next Tuesday night.
Do they?
at Regina, their first tournament game.
Yeah. Drew Cook was sick with the flu when West Branch came to town for senior night, and they beat the boys and the girls, both.
Mhm.
And I think, have some of the tournament games already started, some regional play or
No,
district play?
not yet.
None.
I think,
Sectional wrestling has started, but
Yeah.
not
Okay.
basketball.
I think the first game for the gals is this weekend, and then the second game
Okay.
is Tuesday night,
Okay.
third Thursday night.
West High boys continue to dominate. They took out City High last night. Look for them to be a steamroller once the state tournament
Oh,
starts.
they'll be tough to eliminate, that's for sure,
Yeah.
yeah.
They've lost 2 games, but both were to out-of-staters.
Nope, one was to Dubuque Senior.
Oh, that's right. Thank you. And Dubuque Senior has since lost. There are
Mm-hmm.
no undefeated boys teams in the state. So
And
that's
Dubuque Senior comes to town Friday night.
this Friday.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy.
West High.
City,
Oh, okay.
at City High.
Okay.
That'll be good. Well, until then, we're out of time, but I want to thank you for watching Sports Opinion every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on Channel 18, and then repeated on Sunday night at 6 p.m. again on Channel 18. You can catch the show on patv.tv, or you can go to my Facebook page, and I'll have it up there too. On behalf of Bob Boyd and Pat White and the esteemed Earl Murphy,
Earl the Pearl.
we all want to thank Joe Murphy for all his work with the sound and lights and camera, and I want to thank you for watching. And remember this, either you're a Hawk or you're not. Go Hawks. Whoop 'em good.
Amen.
Amen.
Who's